Yeah. Good evening, everybody. It's our pleasure to have Dr. Suresh Elumalai with us. Suresh is a assistant professor in the Department of Mathematics, SRM Institute of Science and Technology. He works on he works on mainly spectral graph theory and the topological indices of graphs. So today, Suresh will speak about Merrifield Simon's index of graphs. Yeah, Suresh, over to you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So first of all, I thanks our beloved brother Rajesh Kannan for organizing such a wonderful e-seminar for a long time, and I wish him to do this process to continue furthermore for a long time with very strong speakers. So with this thing, I start my talk. So today's my talk is on Merrifield-Simmons index of graphs. So these are all the common notations we are going to use. M for the edges, N for the vertices, and maximum degree del and minimum degree is chronicle delta, etc. So mathematical chemistry. Mathematical chemistry is a branch of theoretical chemistry where we use mathematical methods to discuss and predict some molecular properties without necessarily refer to the quantum mechanics. In mathematical chemistry, there are many branches of there. Out of this, a notable branch is chemical graph theory. In chemical graph theory, where a molecular structure of a chemical compound is analyzed as a graph. There are many other branches, people using operation research, sometimes differential equations, etc. This is a very special branch, chemical graph theory, where we convert a chemical molecule into a graph, and then we analyze or we try to relate the mathematical questions which are investigated through graph theoretical and computational techniques. In chemical graph theory, a topological index plays a very crucial role. So topological index is nothing but it's just a numerical value which is going to associate with a graph structure. For example, when we saw the basic lemma in graph theory, handshaking lemma, sum of the degree of vertices is twice the number of edges. It represents twice the number of edges. This is also a topological index. So you're going to define a function f on either based on the vertex or based on the edge, etc., many other parameters. You're going to find a numerical value and we are going to associate with the graph structure. So now, these topological indices are mainly classified into three types, degree based. So whether it should be based on the degree of the vertex or it should be based on the degree of edges. Then distance based indices. So we can calculate the eccentricity, diameter, or shortest distance between one vertex to everything. It was called as Wiener index, which was started, the problem was started in 1947 by Wiener. It was very famous index and many indices along this field. Then always people who deals with linear algebra and algebraic structures, here also there is a branch which deals with energy based indices where we speak about eigenvalues. From the graph, we can able to construct the adjacency matrices, and from there we can able to calculate the spectrum of the graph, eigenvalues. So there are many kinds of spectrums available, like adjacency spectrum, then Laplacian spectrum, signless Laplacian, now distance spectrum, distance Laplacian, distance signless Laplacian, now eccentricity spectrum. So many different kinds of eigenvalues have introduced in the literature. And these three indices were commonly known by people. And there is one more special index which based on counting the subsets. So the above three indices, whether we take a degree based or distance based or energy based, like one can define a new version, like they can introduce a new spectrum or they can introduce a new distance parameter based topological indices, etc. Here, while we go for counting based topological indices, there exist only two. It cannot be extended. We are going to see about this. So this is basic thing. a matching of G is a set of disjoint edges such that two edges should not share a common vertex. So now, suppose I'm collecting like one matching, two matching, etc. If I'm collecting all the sets, then collecting such k matchings, I am going to denote by m of g, comma k, where g represent the graph and k represent the matching number. So for example, I'm taking a simple connected graph. Here, I have 5 single edges. Suppose I'm taking one matching, all the edges are independent, so I can count this as 5. Then when I want to take two matchings, so I can take the edge 1, 3, 2, 4. I cannot take any other edges because the edges which are colored with red, they don't share a common vertex. So two matchings, I have only two possibilities, that two red edges and two green edges. So the two matching count is just 2. I cannot go for 3 matching because the reason I cannot find like 3 independent edges. So now this summing all these k matchings, we notate the notation given is z of g. And obviously, when we start the problem, I can consider that as a zero matching, that is called as empty set. So m of g comma 0 is always 1. So whenever we start to count independent edge subset z of g, always we have to consider the zero matching. It is simply nothing but 1. So now for the example, we have zero matching, that is 1, and one matching, I have 5 edges, 2 matchings, I have 2 pairs. So the total is going to be 8. So this z of g is called as Wasaya index, which was first introduced by Harao Wasaya, who is the Japanese chemist at the period of 1970s. But the thing is, when Wasaya named this as simply a topological index, future mathematicians, both chemists, they took this topological index name and they keep it as for a general term for all, mentioning all the indices, and then they named the topological index, which are defined by Harao Wasaya. They simply named it as Wasaya index. So this is the small history about the beginning of this topological index. Now, so in graph theory, whenever something have happened in terms of edges, people would suddenly they will start to do the pair for vertices, vice versa. So now similarly, instead of edge set, I can able to go for vertex set. Suppose for a given graph, I can find k independent set of vertices. So if 2 vertices are independent, that means they should not share a common edge. There should not be, they are not adjacent. Then, so the empty set is also an independent set. Similarly, we are going to take this empty set count as 1. So the notation for finding the vertex based thing is I of g comma k, and I of g comma 0 is 1, as like we do for the edge case. So now I'm taking the same example and I'm going to do for I of g for the vertex set. So now I can consider 0 vertex, like there is no vertices, the count is 1, and I have 4 vertices, so the count is going to be single vertex count is 4. And then when I try to take 2 independent set, I can able to find the vertex 2 and 3, they are not adjacent, but 1 and 4, they are adjacent. So I cannot go further. So my 2 vertex set, independent set on 2 vertices is just only 1. So in graph theory, when you find like this, like 1 independent set, 2 independent set, at most you can go for k, which k is less than or equal to n. So that k independent set, the maximum value is called as independence number. In mathematics, people, in graph theory, people speak it as independence number. Now this independent set is the collection of all these things, like when k is 0 to the maximum value. So now the total number of independent vertices we have found, that is 0 independent set is 1, 1 independent set is 4, and then 2 independent set is 1. We cannot go further, so it is going to be 6. So the quantity what we are speaking I of g, which was introduced in 1980s, by Merrifield and Simons. So people started to give the name as Merrifield-Simons index. But when you go for the literature and when you search, like mathematician, they will never accept this as Merrifield-Simons index. So they say it as independent set, counting of independent set. So there are papers you can see in the literature, few mathematicians or mathematical chemists writing Merrifield-Simons index, and few mathematicians writing just independent set of graphs, something like this. So you can, while we go for a survey, we have to check both the different topics. So Merrifield elaborated this concept of molecular structure by means of finite set topology, and then this started to get very important and more attention by both mathematicians as well as mathematical chemists to do further. So finally, people have concluded that I of G is as Merrifield-Simons index and Z of G as Wasaya index, where Merrifield-Simons index deals with the vertex and the Wasaya index is going to be deals with the edge. So now, when we go for calculating for a small graph, suppose I'm taking a graph A and B, it is very easy for me to calculate the independent set. So the null set is going to be 1 for a graph A, and single vertex set is 3, and 1 and 0 are adjacent, non-adjacent, so I'll get 1, so it is going to be 5. For the graph B, I don't have two independent sets because all the edges are connected. This is a complete graph, so it is going to be 1 plus 3, that is going to be 4. So it is very easy if you go for a standard graph while we calculate. Suppose suddenly I say, can you be able to calculate Merrifield-Simons index for this graph, a random graph with huge vertices? It is impossible to go collecting the independent set, k independent sets one by one. It is very tough to do. So how the results and proofs people have given to calculate this independent set, we are going to see in the forthcoming slides. So people started to pick the complete graph on n vertices. So when I take complete graph on n vertices, so it is obvious that every vertex is adjacent to every other vertices. So that means for this complete graph, I can able to calculate the independent set very easily. That is Merrifield-Simons index. So 0 independent set is 1, and when I calculate 1 independent set, 6 vertices. When I go for 2 independent set, I cannot find any count because the graph is a complete graph. So every vertex is adjacent with every other vertices. So it is very easy to calculate for me this I of K6. The complete graph on 6 vertices is K plus 1. So in general, I can easily say it as complete graph on n vertices, then the independent set or Merrifield-Simons index is going to be n plus 1. So now I'm just deleting a edge between 1 and 2. So what happened? So now the value of Merrifield-Simons index get increased. So 1 plus 6. Now 1 and 2 are not adjacent, so I can get one pair of 2 independent set. So the value is 8. Suppose I'm deleting one more edge. In this case, I will get 1, 2, 2, 3 as 2 independent sets for a count of k equal to 2. So in this case 9. So one should not misunderstand that like by deleting one independent set will increase by 1. Okay, here the case it is coincides, but when you delete some edges, the independent set, the Merrifield-Simons index increase drastically. Suppose I'm deleting one more edge between 3 and 1. Now I can find the Merrifield-Simons index is 11 because like I have 2 independent sets, combination 2, 3, 1, 2 and 1, 3. Then I can take 1, 2, 3 as 3 independent set. So the count is going to be 11. So now what will happen? So when I keep on deleting the edges, finally I come to just the graphs only with vertices. We say it as edgeless graph. So now this is the maximum. I cannot delete furthermore. So now to calculate the independent set for this edgeless graphs, just I can take 0 independent set is 1, and then 6C1, 6C2, etc. The combinations goes up to 6C6. So the edgeless, sorry, here there is a typo. It is E6. Edgeless graph on 6 vertices is going to be 64. So we can easily guess that edgeless graph on n vertices is going to be 2 power n. Here it is 2 power 6. So this is the observation just I have said. Whenever we start to delete the edge of a graph, Merrifield-Simmons index started to increase. So this is the first lemma which appeared. Like whenever you delete some edges, always the Merrifield-Simmons index get increased. So now what we can conclude from the above things, my complete graph is the lower bound because it has just n plus 1. The independent set value is simply n plus 1. While I keep on deleting the edges, it comes to edgeless graph. So it is 2 power n. So whenever I just consider simple graph, I'm not speaking about connected graph. If a graph is simple, then always the lower bound for the independent set is complete graph and the upper bound is going to be the edgeless graph. Now, suppose instead of seeing general graph, if I'm taking a simple connected graph, so this is the problem comes to find the maximum and the minimum for independent set. So it is obvious that like our independent set with minimum is a complete graph. We have already found because when you go for a simple connected graph, Kn is going to be the minimum. Now our question is how to get the maximum for a simple connected graph. If there is no conditions for connectedness, then we can simply say it is edgeless graph. So now, yeah, we know that I of Kn is n plus 1. Now we are going to figure it out how to find the extremal graph, that is maximal value for I of g. So yes, we know that when graph is simple connected, then the lower bound for the edges is n minus 1. If it is n minus 1, it is going to be a tree, and nc2, that is n into n minus 1 by 2, that is going to be a complete graph. So my edges lies between n minus 1 to nc2. Now we have already concluded that complete graph is the guy who is going to be the minimum. So I need to find the maximum. So I can guess that it is going to be a tree because whenever I delete a edge, my I of g is going to increase. So the only possible case, I can delete up to, like I can delete the edges such that it should not exceed n minus 1. So when it is going to be n minus 1, I can guess it is a tree. Now we can conclude that the maximum value is going to possess for some unknown guy who belongs to the family of tree. Okay, so this is what the conclusion made. And then the first paper which appears on this to found which guy is going to be the maximum among the trees. But before that, there is one simple way to calculate. Suppose, for example, if you take 6 vertices trees, these are all the 6 possibilities you can take. Then one can easily calculate I of g for all these 6 trees and you can guess. But by guessing for lower vertices, you cannot proceed to prove in general. But you can have a guess that which graph is going to be have the maximum I of g. So from this observation, we found the star, the 6th graph, as the maximum one. So this is the first paper which appeared on Merrifield-Simmons index for the lower bound as well as the upper bound, which was done by Prodinger and Trichy in 1982. So they nicely connected this Fibonacci series, Fibonacci number with this independent set. So the assumptions in some books, people have assumed that F0 is equal to 0. Here the assumption is F0 is 1 and F1 is 1 and it was proceeded. So in general, Fn is going to be Fn minus 1 plus Fn minus 2. Now, they started to take subsets, suppose n number of subsets, such that no two elements should be adjacent. Suppose I am taking just only one, so I have a null set, then 1, the count is 2. If I take 1 and 2, the possibilities are null set 1, 2, the count is 3. Similarly, when I take three numbers like 1, 2, 3, the count is 5. For 4, the count is going to be 8. And for 5, the count is going to be 13. So seeing this observation, we can take paths on 2 vertices, 3 vertices, etc. If you start to calculate the I of G, the independent set, and the similarity comes that P1, that is P1 path on 1 vertices, that means just it is a vertex. So 0 independent set plus 1 independent set, it is going to be 2. Similarly, when you go for path on 2 vertices, so 0 independent set is 1, 1 independent set is 2, and there is no 2 independent set. So it is going to be 1 plus 2, 3. And people started to find the value of this, and they started to compare this. So now my Fibonacci number and my independent set on path, they matches together. And then from this, they easily prove that independent set of a path on n vertices is nothing but Fn plus 1, where F is a Fibonacci number. So this is the first result which have appeared in the literature. And then they started to take star on n vertices, like it has n minus 1 edges and n minus 1 vertices of degree 1 and 1 vertex of degree n minus 1. So for example, we are taking star and 6 vertices. So calculating independent set for this is very easy, like 0 independent set is 1, then 1 independent set is n. So if I fix this 0 and then I can proceed, I can easily get this value. Independent set for star is 1 plus 2 power n minus 1. So now, in that paper, they have clearly proved that independent set of Sn is equal to finding the Fibonacci number of Sn. Both are equal. And then this is the first theorem given in the literature for independent set, that whenever T is a simple connected tree, then the maximum value is held by the star and the minimum value is held by path. So now, keeping this theorem in mind, now we can easily come back to our result. So we can say we are just dealing with simple connected graph. So my lower bound is a complete graph and my upper bound is a star. So whenever G is a simple connected graph, so I can conclude that the upper bound is always possessed by star graph and the lower bound possessed by the complete graph Kn. Then, yeah, this is the result. Now, coming back to the question which I started initially. Okay, now this is the basic results, like the first result we have seen before. Now, how to calculate when a random or a big graph is given to us, how to find the Merrifield Cement Index of graph. Then, in 1986, the excellent result given by Gutman and Polanski, how to find Merrifield Cement Index for a big graph. So, they have given 3 results. One is based on the vertex, other one is based on the edge. Suppose if you have k components or t components of disconnected graph, then you have to find independent set of each graph and you have to multiply, that will be equal to the whole thing. Then whenever you're taking a vertex, just delete the vertex, find the independent set, then delete the neighbors of the vertex and finding the independent set. Summing will give the independent set. Third one, similarly edge. So I'm going to give one more example for calculation. So in chemical graph theory, what is happening? We take any chemical molecule, and this molecule can be converted into a graph. You see in the before, it is N-octane, where the black points are the carbons. So carbon possesses the valency 4. So whenever we speak about chemical graph theory, my maximum degree is going to be 4 because the carbon has 4 valency. So in chemical graph theory, the minimum degree is going to be 1 and the maximum degree is going to be 4. Then it is said to be a chemical graph. So I just converted the graph in the chemical molecule N-octane into just a graph structure. Here blue dots represent the carbon and red dots represent the hydrogen. So whenever we speak about a molecular graph in chemical graph theory, it is a hydrogen suppressed graph. That means we should not consider these hydrogens. We have to omit these hydrogens and we have to take only the carbon-carbon bonding as a graph. So similarly, other example. So we have to remove all these hydrogens, or need not to be always hydrogen, any other chemical. So we are important, like we are only dealing with carbon-carbon bonds, and we are going to get the graph. So now, for example, I'm going to take the naphthalene balls. So the structure of naphthalene is this. Now here, I'm going to remove all the hydrogens, and now this is the chemical graph for naphthalene structure. So we are going to calculate how to calculate Ig for this using the lemma. So according to the lemma, you should have to pick any vertex and you have to remove it. So the tricky thing is you should have to pick the vertex such that it should contain maximum number of edges. So it's maximum degree. That means then it will be very easy for you to calculate I of G very faster. Suppose I'm taking either I can take vertex 3 or 4 here, which degree 3. Then I can delete this. Now it became a path. So when I remove the vertex 4, then now the graph became a path on 9 vertices. So immediately we have the result. I of P 9 is going to be F10. So we can calculate the value 89. Then the result says we have to remove the neighbors of the vertex. So 4 has 3 neighbors, that is 3, 6 and 10. Now I am deleting these 3 neighbors. I am getting 2 paths on 3 vertices. So using the third result from the lemma, I of P3 and I of P3 I am going to multiply. That is simply F4 and F4, which gives 5 into 5, 25. So finally, I am going to calculate the value of naphthalene is nothing but I of n minus 4 and I of n minus neighbors of 4. That is 89 plus 25, which give me 114. So for any graph, like when you go for calculating, so you have to pick wisely that whose degrees are like it has more edges. Either you can pick first maximum or second maximum so that you can easily decompose the graph into components and you can find the Merrifield-Simmons index. So then these are all some results which are existing in the literature. After trees, so people started to find upper and lower bounds for unicyclic graphs. So unicyclic graphs is very simple. Like when a graph has n vertices and n minus 1 edge, it is a tree. Suppose I am just adding one edge between any 2 vertices in the tree, it becomes a unicyclic graph. So it has n vertices and n edges. So for this, in 2014, Hua and Zhu Wang, they have proved that the upper bound is going to be D1, n minus 3. So D is nothing but double star. So double star means like whenever you take a edge UV, add alpha vertices on one side and beta vertices on the other side, it's called double star. Here in our case, alpha is replaced by 1 and the remaining vertices goes on the other side. And next, this is very interesting result. Very recently, people have started to deal with the trees and their complement. Also, their complement should not be disconnected. So trees, I of t plus their connected complement, it should be, they're trying to find the upper and lower bound. So obviously path is going to be the lower bound. But while you go for the upper bound, it cannot be a star. The reason is star has maximum degree n minus 1 when you go for a complement. So it become a disconnected graph. So the interesting result is the same double star with one edge on the one side and the remaining edges on the other side will possess the maximum. Similarly, people started to find the unicyclic graph, lower and upper bounds. So the lower bounds holds for either a cycle or LN3. LN3 is nothing but a triangle. The remaining vertices should possess a path. When you go for upper bound, it is going to be either cycle of length 4 or Sn plus. Sn plus is nothing but just adding a edge to a star will give you Sn plus. Similarly, when G is a bicyclic graph of order n, then people have started to find for bicyclic graphs. So what they do for unicyclics, then it was extended to bicyclic graphs. Same, they have found this graph B1. B1 is the graph given in the picture as the maximum value. And then the minimum value holds for two triangles which is connected by a path. So now, previously we are speaking about tree, how to find the extremal graphs for the first paper and then connected graphs. So now while we go for in general, we need that lemma which we have discussed here, how to decompose the graph and find something. That lemma alone will not help you to find, it help you to find only to calculate Merrifield-Simmons index for a particular graph. But while you go for finding extremal graphs, like for a given fixed parameter, suppose you're fixing a parameter is a matching number or vertices, edge set or independent set or cut vertices, etc. There are many parameters, dominating set. Then there is an issue. Through that lemma alone, I cannot go further. So people have introduced very nice transformations. So these transformations help you to take your graph either to get a maxima or minima. So these are all the sum of the transformation we are going to show here. You can see that this is the first transformation people have used. So when there is a graph, G is a cluster of graph. Okay, all are simple connected. So that is the condition which was imposed. So if I take the first one in the left hand side as G1 and G2. So suppose if I move the cluster of graphs from this middle to a end vertex, either this side or like to V1 or Vn, then people prove that the using this transformation, I of G1, this is always greater than G2. Then similarly, if you're taking the cluster which is connected by a path like Vk to Vk plus 1, if you either move the path, this cluster G to the left with V1 to Vk, or if you move to the right, still both, this is considered as A1, A2, A3. I of A1 is always bigger than either A2 or A3. Maybe it is like, it is not always that A2 and A3 are equal. A2 and A3 are not equal, but still independent set of A1 is strictly greater than A2 and A3. Similarly, this is one transformation, all this transformation, what it says, like whenever we have pendant vertices or paths, using those transformation, we try to eliminate this and we try to get a graph which is like without pendant vertices so that I can able to find min-max. So this is also one transformation where I'm changing my path to a cycle. So in this case also, B2 is going to be always strictly lesser than B1. And the other side, once if you found like my graph is going to be fully like I don't have any pendant vertices, still I had a problem. I have different cases. Now I have to break these cycles. So this transformation 4 will help very much when you go for proofing techniques. You can take this path. If I have a big path, at least 4 vertices, suppose I can break this edge vk plus 1 vk and make a triangle. Then this is very much smaller than d1. So this was the transformation given by Han Van Deng in 2011, I think. Similarly, this transformation, like we have 2 cluster of graphs connected by path, then also we can use the same technique to make a triangle. So these are all the 5 standard transformation which exist till now from 1980s to 2020. These are all the 5 transformation people are using for various conditions or various techniques to prove their results. So now, apart from this, so we have speak that the indices have 3 types. We are speaking about vertex-based, edge-based, then vertex and edge-based is type 1, distance-based is type 2, and then eigenvalue-based. So now, very recently, people started to correlate between or connect between this independent set with the distance-based indices. And recently in 2020, Hua, Wang, they give the results. They connect the Merrifield-Simmons index with Wiener index, which is a distance-based index, and Wiener polarity indices, etc. And then they have given some remarkable results connecting between independent set and the other distance-based indices. Also, they have given 1 conjecture and 2 open problems to solve in their paper. And very recently, myself with my teacher Das and my and Professor Tawfiq Mansoor, who is my supervisor, and with my friend, we have solved the conjectures which was posted by Hua. We have completely solved all the conjectures which is given. And also now, very recently after that, same Hua and Wang, is student, have posted new paper on Merrifield-Simmons index and Wiener type indices, where we can see a few more conjectures and open problems. And I missed one more reference where Zhu and its co-author, they are also given some recent results connecting Merrifield-Simmons index with eccentricity. So now the trend is people have started to connect independent set with distance-based topological indices. So now I'll make a full stop here. Then now let us go to the core thing, as the seminar is going to related with more and more algebraic things. So this is everybody know these things. Whenever we take a simple connected graph, I can find a graph matrix, adjacency matrix. Then when I take the diagonal matrix, all the vertex degree is in the diagonals and the remaining non-diagonal elements are 0. Whenever I found D minus A is going to be my Laplacian matrix and D plus A is going to be my signless Laplacian. So this is the thing, like it starts at the beginning of 2010. People started to connect between the vertex-based or edge-based indices with eigenvalues. So now we are taking the adjacency spectrum as lambda 1 to lambda n in the descending order. Similarly, for the Laplacian spectrum mu1, and we know that mu n is always 0, it is positive. Then signless Laplacian, some people take gamma or q1. So now Milan Randic, who is the American chemist who who introduced the first topological index around 1975. Whenever you take any two edge uv, the degree of u into degree of v, whenever you take 1 by square root of du dv and sum over all the edges, we will get the Randic index. So why I am saying this? Now, very recently in 2010, Hansen and Lucas, they have given a very good conjectures connecting the spectral radius, that is the largest eigenvalue of signless Laplacian graph. So they have given two conjecture with largest eigenvalue, that is Q1 on the signless Laplacian graph connecting with the Randic index. And they have proposed this two conjecture in 2010 in the journal Linear Algebra and Its Applications. And then later in 2014, Deng, Bala and Ayaswamy sir, they have solved the conjecture 1 completely. They have solved the conjecture 1, Q1 minus R less than or equal to 3 by 2 into n minus 2. And then for conjecture 2, they have proved supporting the conjecture 2 when n is equal to 11, up to 11, they cannot move further. So this conjecture come to settle down in 2014. And after like huge break, very recently, Ning and Peng, they have completely solved the conjecture 2 when n greater than or equal to 12. And then this conjecture come to settle down. So the Randic index connected with signless Laplacian, the largest eigenvalue of signless Laplacian comes to an n. And there is one more index called geometric arithmetic index, so which comes from the formula twice square root of du dv divided by du plus dv. It was introduced by Wookwick and Futula. Now, very recently, the same Hansen with Achouchi, he has given some conjectures on geometric arithmetic index and the spectral radius connecting with Randic index. So this was the conjecture given in 2020 by Hansen and Achouchi. Geometric arithmetic index divided by square of spectral radius less than or equal to Randic index by 2. And they proved this, like they've given a partial solution in this paper. And then now very recently, Zibindu and Boso, they've settled this conjecture and they've proved the general results. And then they have given more than this conjecture. So they have proved that whenever r greater than or equal to 2, this is the result. And then they simply said when r is equal to 2, when you solve, you will get the solution x2 is going to be 7.6. So 7.6 here, the conjecture says n greater than or equal to 8. So when n is greater than or equal to 7.6, simply n greater than 8, they have proved this conjecture, and they say when r is equal to 2, the conjecture is going to be the special case of their theorem. So why I am just saying all these things, which is different parts. Now my question is, like past 20-22 years, people are working with vertex-based indices and they are connecting with spectra. Then vertex-based indices was compared with distance-based indices. Distance-based indices were compared with some spectra. Now, still now, it was open. There is no connection or there is no correlation I've found between or independent set with the spectral radius or Laplacian spectral radius or signless Laplacian spectral radius. Even furthermore, we can move distance Laplacian spectral radius you can take, or distance spectral radius. There is no connection between independent set and these are found in the literature. So these things I have just keep as an open question here. So maybe an interested reader or researchers, they can take this problem, they can explore and find the relation between independent set and the largest eigenvalue, or even with energies, different kinds of energies, they can find a relation between them, like upper bound or lower bound or direct connections. So it will be a nice result. According to my small knowledge, I'm just giving a suggestion. So here comes end of my talk.
Thank you very much, Suresh, for the interesting talk. Yeah. Audience, if you have any question, you can ask now. Okay. If not, thank you, Suresh. Thank you very much for the talk.
Thank you, sir. And I
Yeah,
also I also wish you to move these things like long many time, like many new lectures we are expecting from you with different personalities and different aspects. And we wish you for your great success, sir. Thank you for giving
Yeah.
me opportunity. Thank you so much, sir.